long delay? Are we going to hear each other? Are we going to hear
Well,
ourselves like that?
No.
I'm not going to.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
There you
Woohoo! Technical difficulties and rain overcome.
Yeah.
Hi, and welcome to Consciousness Caffeine Radio. This is Rainbow Warrior Goddess Lisa.
BrettStar, the Debt Master.
And you are in our first honorary Consciousness Caffeine 2.0 radio show.
Live.
Live.
From Akasha.
Here at NewEarth Haven, Bali. And we have a very special guest today.
Yes, we do.
BrettStar Brian.
Yes.
Kelly.
Unbelievable stuff going on today. We have just hit the jackpot.
Haven't you? Just a bit about Brian first before we have him get going. Brian is he's a blogger. He used to have a radio show host. He was a radio show host, and he, for the last 2 years, has been director of the NewEarth Project over here in Bali for the NewEarth Haven. But as Brett just said, we have...
Holy shit. You carry on.
I'm speechless, and anybody who knows me knows I'm never speechless.
This is true.
But we have some really, really, really breaking serious news today.
Yep.
And no jokes aside, I feel like a kid on Christmas Day, and everybody's about to feel the same. But we were going to do an interview with Brian, and some really wild, crazy stuff has gone on in the last few days, and we're coming on late today because we were just getting filled in and updated. But I'm going to let Brian start because I don't want to waste any time talking about what we're going to be doing on Consciousness Caffeine, because the topic today... it's going to blow everything out of the water. So, Brian, why don't you tell the people listening briefly your story and how you got to be where you are today, creating sustainable and living sustainable solutions in Bali, and the one that you're about to share with the rest of the world.
Well, the first part of that question I'm still trying to figure out for myself. I have no idea what I'm doing here.
That's the way to do it.
And I have no idea what got me here. That's just the truth. Yeah, my life since 2010 has just been this wild roller coaster ride. Common story, waking up from the dream, realizing that everything I've ever been told is a lie, going down what seems like thousands of very deep rabbit holes, inventing and breaking myself down on multiple different occasions, leaving it all behind, changing directions a million times, giving everything I own to charity, and leaving my life behind in San Diego to move to Morocco to build a sustainable community project there that fell apart, and getting into doing my blog and doing radio shows, which gave me the privilege of meeting a lot of really amazing people. I linked up with Sacha Stone. I did an interview with him.
Wow.
And he said, hey, if you ever find your way into Bali, give me a call. I got a villa out there. And it turned out January 2015, the universe presented me with an opportunity to do just that. I walked into this place, and bing, bang, boom, here we are 2 years later building the first NewEarth Haven, which is the first community project of NewEarth Project in the world, which will be the first of many. So that's a very long story condensed down into 60 seconds or less.
Yeah. That's a novel cut down to
absolutely
2 minutes. Okay, we all have a similar story, and a lot of the listeners are in the same and doing the various things to get out of the system and woke up or in the process of waking up and what's really going on. Let's let Brian go. He's our guest. Okay.
So for those that are familiar with this is going to be like a quick catch-up. There's still a lot that are new to this information. In order to be able to understand it, you got to go back to the beginning.
Yeah. ABCs.
I think that it's a pretty easy concept to understand that our reality has been hijacked for far longer than the last couple generations.
Oh, yes.
They've been planning the hijacking for a very long time. But around the first part of the 1900s is when the shit really hit the fan. Basically, in around 1931, 32. After the stock market crash, the United States of America Corporation, because there is no real such thing as government, really all governments are corporations masquerading as governments.
Yeah.
The Corporation of the United States of America went bankrupt, and to be able to bail themselves out, they made a deal with the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve said, okay, we will unlock this wealth for you to rebuild your nation, but we need assets to be pledged in order to be able to do that.
Wow. May I throw one piece in there just in case nobody knows this basic fact? The Federal Reserve is not part of our federal government. That was done in the Federal Reserve Act in 1913 because they were laying plans steadily. But they were private banksters that would lend us money. They weren't our bank. But go ahead.
Yeah, so the Federal Reserve is actually a privately held corporation registered, I think, in Puerto Rico.
Yes.
Yeah, so not federal at all. So they just use the name federal. A lot of the misconception is that it's some kind of government entity, which it's not.
It's like Federal Express.
Yeah. So in 1933, the Federal Reserve. Now you got to remember, this was all planned.
Yes.
But what they say, this is like what they say on historically, depending on, it's a lot of hijacking of the story. But the reality is, the Federal Reserve said, we'll bail you out. But we need assets, we need collateral. And the government said, no, I'm simplifying, but the government said, we don't have any assets, we're bankrupt. What do you want us to give? And they said, no, you have a very large asset. You have the labor of, I think at the time was 200 million people.
In America.
United States of America. You have the labor of 200 million people.
Yep.
So it was around this time, and I don't remember the exact year or the exact date, but they made holding gold illegal.
Yeah.
So it was illegal to have
hand it in, didn't you?
It was illegal to have gold holdings, and that's when the gold-backed currency went to fiat currency. Fiat currency meaning there's absolutely nothing backing it. So the money isn't even worth the value of the paper that it's printed on.
Right.
So they took away the purchasing power of the people, and they created fiat currency. And fiat currency is just a debt instrument. It's like an IOU to the Federal Reserve.
Exactly.
So you can't take away people's purchasing power without giving them something in return. So the Federal Reserve said, okay, we'll make this. Before 1933, I think, it might have been a little bit earlier, there wasn't even a birth certificate. So they said part of this deal is we'll start registering people's births and we'll start collateralizing their birth certificates. Right. And we're going to give them access to these gold caches in an amount of infinite credit. Right? So that was the deal. So pretty good deal for the American people had it been presented that way to us. But the reality is it was swept under the rug. I have a blog post called "Your Birth Certificate is Made into a Bond and It's Worth Billions." You can find it on Brian Kelly's blog, or it's going to be in the comments of this this video.
We'll put it in afterwards.
That will go into a lot more of the detail, and I implore everyone always to do your own research. This is all historically documented. It's not some conspiracy theory. So moving forward from 1933.
Can I just put one plain English? Because that was really good for those of us who are in the know a little bit, but I want to speak some baby talk.
Yeah, please.
What he's saying is that in all that conversation, when your birth certificate is filed, you think it's giving you it's giving you rights, it's actually giving you privileges, but that birth certificate on the back is a red QSIP number, and that is listed and securitized as a stock on the U.S. stock market that earns a couple $1 million. It's very dependent on how much your family has paid into the system over the time. But that is actually a trust stock, and it's a bank account with the Federal Reserve that's supposed to be accessible. You're the trustee of that account, but we never see that money until they actually give us a little bit unless we get disability and a tiny bit of it at the end of our lives. So that's it.
If you have your birth certificate, look at your birth certificate. There's a few strange things you'll see about your birth certificate. Number one, it's printed on bond paper. So it's like a bond because it is a bond. And at the very bottom of the birth certificate, in very, very small, like 4-point font, it's either going to say American Banknote Company or Midwest Banknote Company. Those are the two that I've been able to find so far. Wow. Now, can I swear on here?
Yeah, absolutely.
What the fuck are birth certificates are printed by a banknote company unless it's some kind of a banknote? Yeah. So,
and they have watermarks too.
Yeah, exactly. So that's for anybody that wants to dig deeper. Research. There's some amazing videos out talking about your straw man. Essentially, when you're born, there's a corporate fiction. And this is going to be hard to explain simply.
I can do this pretty well.
But they create a corporate fiction whereby in the world of commerce, in order for corporations to be able to enforce statutes, policies, and codes, they can't do that on souls. Yeah. Yes. They can only do it on corporations.
Dead legal entities.
Dead legal entities. So when your birth certificate was made, there's a straw man that is created. And anytime anything is registered, whether it be a house, a car, a child, you're actually giving away the ownership rights, and you maintain the use rights. So you don't believe that? Yeah, you don't believe that? Don't pay your taxes on your car. Don't pay your taxes on your house. Yep. See who really owns that car, who really owns that house, or who really owns that child. If you refuse to put your child in school or you
Yeah.
beat your child, what happens?
You lose your child like me for standing up to it.
Child Protective Services comes in, they swoop up your child because they own your child.
They
So
do.
I don't know if you want to go into a little bit more detail on the straw man.
Just about the straw man, to put it a little simple, everyone, oh, my name is Lisa Jean Vunk. Well, it's, what do you think when you think that? Is it capital Lisa, capital VUNK? No, there's different names for when it's written in all lowercase letters. That's actually referring to the living man or the living woman. When you capitalize the first letter, it's gives you a few more takes a few of your rights away. But when it's written in all capitals, that does not mean you. And everybody is committing, all the police and governments are committing fraud, but people unknowingly allow themselves to be misidentified as that dead legal entity, the corporation. That's why no matter what form you fill out, whether it's a census or whatever, you can write lowercase. The system will always boot it up to all capitals because that is a corporation and you are the trustee. But instead of giving you any of the benefits of that trust, it holds you legally accountable and you have no rights. You only have privileges like a slave. We are considered enemy combatants. We are not. If you call yourself a citizen, you're saying, I'm a slave. You are a living man and a living woman born with natural rights, which are above maritime admiralty law, which is actually what we're functioning under in all the world as far as governments. Well, that's 198 of the countries, I believe, are functioning under common maritime admiralty law. Yeah. Then there's common law, which people know a little bit about here and there. But when you say, hey, the judge calls you up to the bar and says, Lisa Jean Vunk, he's not referring to the living woman. He's referring to the straw man or the corporation known as Lisa Jean Vunk. And right then and there, you're his bitch. That's it.
Yeah, never tell him that you understand.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
I do not stand under.
Yeah. And to be able to, it's a game of consent.
Yes.
Yeah, so they have very creative ways, judges, police officers, and essentially any entity, any fictitious legal entity of getting you to consent to saying that you are your straw man and saying that you are this corporate fiction illusion that they've created to get you to bow down to this illusion of authority.
Yes.
Yeah, and there is no illusion of the only.
And that's fraud.
Yeah, and that's fraud. And so the only entity that we're loyal to is whoever our creator is, whoever your creator is to you. And so if you know this system, there's people that have spent years of their lives, so their whole lives, trying to figure out how all this shit works, and it is a complex game.
Labyrinth.
However, if you learn how to play it, it's the most liberating information that you can ever empower yourself with, because you realize how that you're the embodiment of source consciousness, that all of these legal entities, these perceived illusionary authorities, they actually have no authority. They just wear really funny costumes, and they like to make you think that they have authority when they really don't.
And you give it to them.
And you give it to them.
If you give it to them, if you consent, then you just made yourself unknowingly signed a contract to them and gave them gave all your rights away and gave them full rights.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the backstory.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. Now
So
let's
how
go
do we get out of this rabbit hole?
back to the fiat currency. Is probably a really good place to start.
Okay.
With the Fed.
Yeah. Okay. So, what part of that?
I was thinking that since we have some announcements, ever since everybody found out about fiat currency, we were trying to create things that were value. And there was a lot of activists who started to figure out the pieces of the labyrinthian puzzle that Brian was just explaining so well. Started to figure out how to either access that bond or to find other ways to create systems that actually have value. Like, for example, the BRICS banks created a gold-based money. And then there's all things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, these cryptocurrencies you hear about that actually have value. But the difference is that fiat money has no value, but the more they print out of thin air, the more it devalues it, even though we run around using it and we can still take paper and, you can take a US dollar and go into a store and get it. As a matter of fact, you can't take gold and go into a store and buy something. Mm-hmm. So, but we consider that the exchange rate. And there was this group called the One People's Public Trust back in 2012 who went and figured out all this stuff we're talking about. And they went in the UCC, the Uniform Corporate Code, is who issues all the charters for all these fraudulent corporations, the banks, the governments in the world. And they went in and they undid all the filings and basically undid all these corporations because they're fraud. In their own system, they haven't existed since 2012. The fiat money itself, we still can't seem to get by. We have paper everywhere. You change paper, paper, paper. But what actually still is considered to have value is the Federal Reserve's fiat money.
Yeah.
And right now, considering we're still using it, those trusts everyone's been trying to figure out how to do them with added for value money orders and this and that trust that is listed as stock is supposed to pay for all your needs as a citizen. Since you traded your life sweat, they're supposed to pay for your house that you live in, your living expenses, a car that you need, the food you need, any medical care you need, these kinds of things.
Okay, so you're going to be familiar with this, but let me implement
Go.
Let me bring in a wacky element that needs to be clear so people understand for full context. So what we live in is a metric or a matrix of debt slavery, right? So the whole idea is, they've created a system whereby so many people spend years of their lives, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, paying off mortgages, credit cards, car loans, student loans. And so the reality is, in order for when you actually go to the bank and you sign up for a loan.
The fractional reserve system, that's what I meant about fiat money.
Yeah. So when you go into say Bank of America and you want to get a loan for a house, right? Mm-hmm. You sign a loan document, and what the bank does is they take that to the Federal Reserve, the promissory note with your signature, and then essentially the Federal Reserve checks, and then from your trust account, those numbers are created in a computer and they're given to you. Now that's where it should stop. You should have that funds and you should be able to go and you should be able to spend it on whatever you want.
They're actually given to the bank that you go to the loan to, and that bank, because let's say you borrow $100,000, they then get $1 million, so they get $900,000 more to loan to other people.
Exactly.
Out of your account.
And then you get access to whatever it is you want to buy, and then you got to pay that back, and you got to pay it back with interest. Yes. So in order for a loan to be legal, both legal and lawful, mm-hmm. The bank needs to be able to prove the historically of where those funds came from, going back 3 transactions deep.
Yeah.
So like when you have those funds in your bank, which are just numbers in a computer, there's no real money that's going around. It's money that's created, and then more is created. Every time you use your signature, even more is created, and then that's leveraged, and even more is created. Then it's traded on the stock market. So it's just this huge spider web.
And that's creating debt the whole time. It's lowering the value of more. It's inflating the money so that the more they print out of thin air, because that's literally what they do. They print it out of thin air.
Yeah.
The more they print out of thin air, like, oh, we just got bailed out by the Fed. We got to borrow. We got to print more money, and now we're in debt. Who do we owe debt to? Pluto? No.
And this is the paradox. There's actually is no debt, right? Yes. Because there is no real loans because they can't prove the history. They can't. So it's like we say it's a debt slavery system, but there is no actual debt. So all that debt, whoever's watching this out there in cyberspace, whatever
we're actually
credit
off live right now.
We're off live.
Oh, okay.
Get it back on.
I'm trying to. I know.
Okay.
I'm trying to.
So we have this one. Okay.
Yeah.
So whatever credit cards you think you have, whatever student loans you think you have, whatever home loans you think you have, or what am I missing? Automobile loans that you think you have, you actually don't have any debt. So start there as a baseline. So when
it's already been paid for by your birth certificate stock, and they're trying to collect double on it through you.
Yeah. So this whole process is just right out of the gate. It's built on corruption. It's built on greed. It's built on manipulation, and it's built to keep people in this control mindset. You have people killing themselves, committing suicide because of how much debt they have, and they have no way of paying it off. This is true. Look it up. There's students that have graduating out of university and throwing themselves off buildings because they can't pay their student loans back, and they know it. So what the One People's Public Trust filings did back in 2012 is essentially it used the system against itself. So the Uniform Commercial Code is actually just a registry system. Mm-hmm. It's the governing set of laws that, I don't even know if it's laws, regulations, statutes, codes, and policies that is the baseline for how corporations are able to deal with one another.
With living beings.
Yeah.
Well, it's supposed to only be between corporations, dead and legal entities, governments, corporations, and this is at sea. This is where the Maritime Admiralty Law comes in. That's why it's called your birth certificate, because what is on a boat that has value that it's putting at the dock to put on the land is called its birth. Yeah. And that's why, it's all, when you start to see it, it's crazy how they took something, so you have London, and over in Washington, D.C., 3 different 3 different sovereign places. Go ahead and research that. D.C., the City of London, and the Vatican City are not within the countries. They're their own entities, separate, and those 3 ball and chains run all of this. It started with canon law, then they created maritime admiralty law, and now they've created all these systems of government, because we used to be matriarchies. The maritime admiralty started with the monarchy in England, and then they evolved into this.
All designed to hijack the wealth of the world. And so essentially what the what the One People's Public Trust did was it brought that whole system down.
Yeah.
And it basically said, okay, we're registering this foreclosure of every corporation on the planet, the International Monetary Fund, the Bank of International Settlements, the Federal Reserve, all world banks and central banks. And in order for this to be disputed, any party or any party to this claim needs to come in, and they have 3 days to rebut the claim, and if not, then it stands as law.
Yeah.
So no one came in and rebutted that, because if any government, any actual corporation masquerading themselves as government, for them to be able to prove that this wasn't the case, they'd have to show that they weren't in fact a corporation, which they all are.
Yeah.
So within this set of documents, essentially what it did was it gave back the wealth of the world back to all the people. Now you got to remember, this isn't limited to the United States.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Very important part I missed when we were right there. How this all started initially was back in 1300 with Pope Boniface. He created canon law, and he made it wasn't a statute, excuse me, I'm missing the word, but he basically claimed, the Pope was all God. He was supposed to be the version of God on earth, and he could make all the rules. And he made a canon law stating that the Vatican, the Catholic Church, owned all real property and souls on the planet. And this is from that is how they created maritime admiralty law. So it was just Pope Boniface way back, this guy with a big hat, and we won't get into all that BS, but they ruled the world for a long time too. Yeah. But he just said something, they put it on paper, and everybody just started agreeing.
Yeah.
And so even that system was never lawful. It was just created, but because everybody gave their consent, they got away with it. And they went in, and they, in their own game, in their own rules, in their old system, because even in their system, you have to give your consent. In contract law, all contracts have to be forthcoming, so they're easily understandable by both parties. And if they're not, then they're fraud and they're null and void. Yeah. Okay, back to you.
Very well said. So essentially, with all that being said, and you got to remember, all of this is in the public domain. Part of the way that this system operates is everything has to be made visible. Yeah. So what they do is they've gotten really good at hiding things in plain sight. If you know where to look, then you can find this information. Everything that we've shared so far, you can actually find this on government websites, no less. On the Vatican websites. Yeah. Go back and read the papal bulls. It's all there.
The papal bull, that's it.
I love that they're actually living. They're showing us it's there in live, real time. You just got to go and look for it. They're not actually trying to hide it. Yeah. They're going, here you go.
You know why? Because they write these things in legalese so people don't understand them. Yeah. And they know that the majority of the masses are too lazy, unfortunately, to go out and look and be able to see this for themselves. They've done such a good job at coining everything a conspiracy theory that this dissuades people from going out and doing their own research.
And seeing the true, real conspiracy that's existed for thousands of years.
Exactly. So, to make a long story short, when all these filings happened, essentially what it did was it toppled the whole system on top of itself on paper. Now, energetically, you haven't seen, if you're out there living in the world, you haven't seen the effects of this yet. But the reality is, energetically, it was done back in 2012. The only thing that's keeping this engine moving is the buy-in and all the consent from people all over the planet. Well, what's happened over the course of the last couple of days is about to change that in a really major way.
I do not consent. Yeah. And just for everybody that's just coming back on, I was kind of stalling a little and going until we got live again for the big important information. So we are live again now on YouTube.
Okay, cool. Hello again, YouTube.
Hello. Sorry about that. We will link everything up that we've been recording offline while we haven't been live. There's been a lot of information coming out. And these guys haven't stopped talking, actually. It's been great. Carry on. So the sun is shining.
Now to the juicy part, yes. Well, the light came down.
Where it left off back when I got out in 2012, 2013, we started doing radio shows around this. Yeah. And these documents, on paper, they gave everyone access back to their trust accounts, back to their Federal Reserve accounts. On paper, to the tune of $5 billion and $5 billion for every soul on the planet at pre-1917 gold standard value, gold and silver standard value. So you can imagine what 10 billion was back then, what it would be now. So it's kind of the numbers of how much is in each of these accounts is almost irrelevant.
Yeah.
Really, no person on the planet is going to figure out a way to spend 10 billion in
You can't even get it out.
1917 value.
Let me just go back to
So
that.
many zeros.
So we're saying that it started was worth 10 billion back in 17.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if anyone knows what compounding interest means at 5%. You can make $5,000 a month a year. For 40 years, you can nearly make $1 million. That's just one person, not to mention 10 billion.
Yeah.
Then adding inflation into it. What's 10 billion times, I think it's
It's
0.0001?
And here's what I learned recently is actually the reality is that 10 billion was just an insurance bond. So there was a whole lot more than that. So it's
The
really
world
what is the equivalent to is an infinite amount of credit.
Yeah.
So what that means energetically when we reset the scale back to zero. I mean, we could sit and philosophically go over what that could potentially look like. It's going to be a lot of conjecture at this point, but going back to the facts of where we are now is essentially for 2012, 2013, 2014, when I got out of radio near the end of 2014, there was a lot of people chasing a lot of dead-end trails, trying to figure out how to access these accounts.
Very frustrating.
You can research a document called a courtesy notice,
Mhm.
and a lot of these went out back in, I think it was late 2013. And what a courtesy notice is, for anybody, go online and research One People's Public Trust courtesy notice. Say you have a lender that is calling and harassing you about, an old debt that hasn't been paid for 3 or 4 months in a row, right? So you're calling me, you're the telemarketer.
Hi, can I speak with Brian?
Yeah, and I know I don't have this debt. I know it's not real debt. I know that whole system has been foreclosed. So I say, okay, Miss Lisa Jean Vunk, in order for me to be able to pay this off, I need to send you something and we can get this settled. And so I need your address, right? Why do you need it? Blah, blah, blah. We're going to go back and forth. I'm going to say, look, you want to get this debt paid, right? I want you to stop calling me. Let's create a win-win scenario. Give me your address. I send you a courtesy notice, basically to give you the courtesy and the notice of letting you know you are now operating and working for a foreclosed entity, therefore committing fraud.
And they need to prove the debt.
Yeah, and here's the links to all of the One People's Public Trust filings. Here's all the information. Now you have everything. So now your contract is null and void because your corporation is foreclosed upon. My contract now is the standing agreement, right? So now, if you call me
What's your standing?
or you email me again, or you contact me in any way, I'm now going to send you an invoice for 1,000 ounces of Troy silver.
An hour.
Yeah, based on every phone call and every email you send.
Because that's my bill structure.
Yeah, so you as the telemarketer who has no idea what's going on, you're this innocent pawn in the game. You get this thing, now you're committing fraud. What are you going to do with this document? It's going to go straight up the ladder. You're going to take it to your manager. Your manager's going to read it. Your manager's going to go, what the fuck is this? He's going to take it to his manager. He's going to read it. He's not going to go, what the fuck is this? Sooner or later, it works its way all the way up the line. I did this with my car payment, Chase Auto, back in 2013. Crickets. Not a single phone call after that. Fast forward 6 months. I never made a single payment. I had factory plates on my car. I had no registration. Once I found out that I didn't own this debt, of course I stopped paying it. A lot of people would be very afraid to do that.
Absolutely.
Fuck the fear.
You know what I did?
Fuck the fear.
I didn't have all that information yet. I was still learning it all, and if you do it wrong, you get yourself in trouble. So I knew I wasn't the legal name, and when they called, they said, "Is Lisa Jean Vunk?" I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. She's been dead since her parents filed her birth certificate. Can I help you? Are you related?" "Absolutely not." Click. Seriously. When I found out about it all, I charged up all the credit I could, get all the credit cards, and moved to Costa Rica. And
bounced out of town.
So
6 months go by, and then I get a written letter from the vice president of Chase Auto directly to me.
6 months later?
6 months later.
They have 30 days to respond to. That's it.
Maybe it was between 4 and 6 months later. So 4 and 6 months, no impound company came to show up. not another letter, not another phone call. Of course, the debt still showed if I looked at it online. I don't care. I'm driving around in a car that's paid for by my trust account, right? So I get a letter. It's to me. It's basically saying we received this notice. It looks like you're foreclosing on your own account, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. We're willing to make you a payment plan that works for you. We guarantee it. Call this telemarketer at this number. It's an actual person's name, so it's not like a 1-800 number. It's like call this guy. He's gonna take care of you. He's my guy. I know him, and we're gonna take care of you.
Hey Steve, how you doing, man? I heard you're gonna sort me out.
So, and then signed in blue ink by the vice president of Chase Auto. Signed in blue ink. And so, what do? I read it. Okay, this is interesting. And I send him an invoice for 10,000 ounces of Choice Silver. I say, here you go. You broke the terms of my agreement. You owe me now 10,000 ounces of Choice Silver. You can deposit that in silver at my address. Here's my address. Never heard another thing. Until I moved to Morocco, and I couldn't sell my car because technically on paper they tried to say they're not just going to wash the debt. Some did, however. So I gave away my car to charity, and now it's
nice.
It's
now, just quickly back for the newbies, what does the blue ink mean?
The blue ink.
The blue ink is actually how maritime admiralty law and dead legal entities have to sign. It has to do with actually blood when it comes out of your body. It's red until it comes out. It's blue.
It's not legal unless I use it.
No, wait a minute. I got it backwards. It's blue inside your body, and it's red when it comes out. But this also has to do with the term blue bloods and the people that run this whole system. But as far as signing documentation, you can negate acting on not consenting by without signing anything without prejudice. And when you use purple ink, you're royalty. So purple and red ink means another thing, but you always want to use purple. People don't even care about that anymore.
Yeah, stop signing anything with your signature without writing without prejudice.
Without prejudice.
When you write without prejudice, it's almost like saying, I don't understand all this, what's going on in this contract because it's written in legalese, therefore you can't hold anything in this contract against me.
Yeah, or UCC-108, but Caleb explained to me that even doing that is honoring that system that's fraud, that the UCC shouldn't exist anyway.
The UCC has been foreclosed also.
Yeah, exactly.
So
you're just helping to give energy to a dead.
So there was all sorts of success stories that people sent me to my blog. $99,000 mortgage. It's on my blog. You can see it was written off. People paying their phone bills with their verified by their trust account using the accept for value form. And at the time, like thousands, I don't even know, maybe tens of thousands of these courtesy notices went out.
Yep.
But that was the best that could be done at that time. Yep. So after a couple years of beating the drum as hard as I could beat it and not really seeing any light as far as gaining the access that everybody was trying to get.
Yeah, the added for value AFV money order didn't work for me.
Yeah.
I tried.
Yeah, and so it really depends on the organization that you're trying to pay, the person that receives it. Yeah. There's so many variables at play. The person
at the desk,
Yeah, there's so many variables at play that will determine whether or not it's accepted or denied, you know?
Yeah.
So, fast forward to 5 days ago.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway. All right, we're back.
Sorry about that.
I don't know where we lost people. You want to bring everybody back up to speed?
I think we lost everybody when you were going into explaining the process of how you send the courtesy notice that we don't really owe any debt. And that when anybody calls you, say, okay, I just need to send you some information in order to take care of this. I just need your address. And then you explain the process of the courtesy notice and how that courtesy notice, by them receiving it, they have 3 days to stand. It's 30 days, actually, to respond. But what it does is it proves that they are a fraud, that their corporation has been shut. Yeah. Still,
and then what's the development?
Yeah. All right. What I want to go. Okay.
Okay, we're
you
live.
Guys, thanks for. All right, we're live. Thanks, you guys, for dealing with all the technical difficulty. Very interesting how when we talk about amazing, amazing breakthroughs for all of humanity. Right now, we're going to let Brian go to why we're so excited. We've been giving you all this background for a reason. All this many years, all the people who actually got pissed off enough and curious enough to want to straighten this out, we've done it. They cracked the code to the Fed. The Fed is our bitch now. So you explain. Right. Come on, baby!
Remember, we're in a restaurant.
Their karma is biting them in the ass. Come on, Durga. See, Durga, she should really be going like this to...
You can calm it down, you know.
The elite, sociopathological, bankster, warmonger, pedophiles of power have enslaved humanity with government fraudulent...
And she's rapping! Anyway,
okay. So
carry on.
What you guys can't see in the background is restaurant guests looking at us like we're absolutely fucking bonkers. But that's okay. That's okay. So where we left off was a couple years ago. Basically, everybody running in parallel, trying to figure out the best way to get access to these accounts.
Yeah.
And I at that point, I moved to Morocco. I lived in Morocco. I was trying to start a community project out there for a while.
And you were with a couple of the trustees of the...
Everybody, yeah, with Caleb, with Heather, with a bunch
Randall.
of people that I did. Randall wasn't there. With
he
a bunch
wasn't.
of people I did radio shows with. And then I moved to Bali, and then I got tied up in this project, and kind of, I just decided I wanted to work on creating, and I was tired of like just being in research
Fighting,
mode.
yeah.
I wanted to get in doing mode, and I wanted to work with creative people, and I wanted to actually put something together that was going to add value to the planet.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
that the research and the work that I was doing wasn't. It was just I was ready for a new chapter of what I wanted to do with my time and energy.
The whole Buckminster Fuller thing. You don't focus on destroying the broken system. Focus on creating the solutions that will replace it.
Yep, synergy.
And that's what you've been doing. And it kills you. You can only do so many years of that. I did years of it, and it was killing me. I was like, I can't study law anymore.
Are we still online?
We're still
Yeah,
on.
no, we're live.
Okay.
Go.
So fast forward to a few days ago, and I get an email, or I get a message on Messenger from one of the guys I used to do the radio shows with, and he said, "Brian, hey, it's been 2 years. How you doing? Just wanted to let you know we've figured out how to unlock the accounts."
Wow.
Okay, so going back to what we were talking about in the very beginning, these accounts they're still sitting there. They're still sitting there with all this. Now you got to remember, this is the wealth of the world. This is this is if you have a social security number in the United States or the equivalent in any other country, or your birth has been registered, and there's that whole process. Then there's some account, there's some cash somewhere that's holding the wealth that's been hijacked from everybody on the planet since birth.
Yeah,
and so. What he proceeded to send me was a few screenshots of bills that had been paid with his Federal Reserve bank account.
I saw it myself.
Actually,
I was like,
I have it here. I have it here on my phone, and I will.
Why don't you go ahead and hold it up to the screen?
I can actually prove it.
This was actually something he released this morning, just before we started shooting, so we could understand what was going to happen today. Because literally,
you can see that there.
Lower it a little bit down.
That says, paid. This is my PayPal account. $300 was sent, paid by my Federal Reserve Bank. You can see it there. It's kind of hard to see. There it is. They can see.
Go ahead and put it in the other screen.
Can you actually do it in the other screen as well?
Okay, that's a better one.
So
$300.
We'll splice it up.
$300 paid by my Federal Reserve Bank account to my mom and dad. Yeah, so there it is.
Hold on, we're working with double cameras because we keep getting kicked off YouTube. Though for those of you live,
so
explain to the simply what that means.
Okay, what that means is, let me explain the process, and that will help everything else make sense. So, if you are an American citizen, or
actually any citizen of any country with a birth certificate,
but if you have a social security card, like Australia has or Canada has Social Security tax ID or something like that. But if you have the equivalent of a Social Security card or Social Security number, that number is actually a bank account number.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. And a lot of people have known that for a long time.
So, I guess ours would be tax file number.
Yeah. So that's a bank account number, and there's a code. There's a set of numbers on the back of the Social Security card. What's it called?
It's called the red. It's called the CUSIP number, CUSIP, but it's red. The number's in red.
And that's the key.
At least on the American version. certificate.
That's the key to accessing the account. So what you'll see is that I think it's 7 total characters. It'll either start with an A, B, C, D, E, F, and I think it ends at G or H at the maximum. That letter is used to find the corresponding Federal Reserve Bank for whatever city your Federal Reserve account is located in. Like my mom's Federal Reserve account is located in Chicago. I think hers is a D or an E. So on the Federal Reserve Bank routing number site, as long as you know the letter, then you can go down and figure out where your Federal Reserve Bank account exists, and then next to that is their routing number. And next to that is their bank address. And next to that is their phone number. So now you have your bank account number, you have the bank, it's just Federal Reserve Banks in all caps.
Yep.
You have the account name, which is your name that's on your Social Security card.
Yep.
And you have the routing number. So you have the account number, the routing number, and all the information to be able to actually make a payment somewhere.
To add it to your PayPal account or to make a money wire.
Yep. To do anything that you would need for whatever kind of service that would allow you to use your bank to make a payment either online or using a checkbook.
Exactly.
Some people now, as you can probably imagine, the last 5 or 6 days have been a frenzy, right? People are using it to access to pay and send money using their PayPals to pay off credit cards. A guy that we know used it to purchase $20 million worth of CDs
now,
from his bank.
We don't suggest you do this shit.
Not yet. We can go into this story in more detail, but and then he did a cash wire to buy a $500,000 coach, like 40-foot
band bus,
like a mansion on wheels kind of thing. And the funny thing is, he didn't even know how to drive that thing. So it's like driving a supercomputer, you know. So
you got a license?
So
hand him your paperwork.
Yeah.
So the conversation could go in any number of ways from here.
Yeah.
What kind of questions do you have?
Okay.
Probably first, as far as what you just mentioned, and I'm friends with one of the other trustees as well, and this was one of his concerns, is that it's all about free money, and it's not about having free money. It's about getting out from under the debt slavery, and we'll let you go into that.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm sorry, I've had money and I haven't had money. I've never been filthy rich, but I've been around a lot of filthy rich money growing up on Martha's Vineyard. And you know what? Once my needs are met, who needs anything? But we've been so driven. There's a lot of reasons about suppression of society. There was a whole plan. This all ties into. This is only part of Agenda 21. But dumbing us down, destroying the family, making us literally become, obedient slaves. I mean, the Rockefellers hired Dr. Sigmund Freud's nephew, Bernard. I can't remember his name now. But he created a protocol of behaviorism to create a perfectly controllable society. And now so many people, people have their babies, they put them to daycare, and there's no family unit. Yeah. And people have transferred their emotion to things. Yeah. We don't need things. And I am really excited about this because it's about us beating the system, but it's not about going out and I would go buy land. I would go buy a home. Yeah. I would go... Yep. And then let's bring this down, and I think this is just the process through which we're going to get past the system to bring one that's fair.
Needs and not wants.
Yeah, there's so many subtle, energetic elements of all of this. Like, if people can get to a place where you start to realize that our reality has been hijacked. Yes. From the second we're born in the birth certificate, going up to the education system, the food that's fed to us, the things that we're taught in school, and by all the indoctrination,
healthcare, genocide.
I mean, the list goes on and on. Monsanto and GMO foods, chemtrails in the sky,
vaccines,
fluoride in the water, vaccines in our children.
Taxes,
debt slavery. I mean, the list goes
on.
Borders,
carbon tax.
There we go.
What this is more about than anything, from my humble perspective, is it's just about freedom of tyranny.
Absolutely.
Sovereignty, dominion.
I understand where Caleb is coming from. Caleb will probably watch this video, and I understand.
Might kill me for mentioning his name.
I understand that there's a perception that what kind of value is it going to create if you give everybody access to unlimited wealth? First of all, what people need to understand is
hamburgers will cost $500,000.
Well, what people need to understand is,
like over here, I paid $500,000 for dinner. What?
That's what
we do here.
Back during my blogging days, I got into so many arguments with conservative, very indoctrinated, conditioned personality types. Yeah. And the whole all debt is an illusion thing. And the common perception amongst that crowd was, you bought this thing, you owe the money for it. And there's so much indoctrination into that. The baseline starting point is that this wealth actually belongs, this bank account belongs to you. Yeah. It belongs to you, it belongs to you, it belongs to me. Mm-hmm. This isn't money that we're stealing from some system. We haven't cracked the code on trying to figure out how to steal from the government. Yeah. We've cracked the code on how to get what has already been stolen back to us.
It's our value that even was stolen from our ancestors. I mean, we used to pass down, inheritance. Now the government is trying to hold you accountable for your parents' debt. Yeah. It's ridiculous because the fact of the matter is, we've been taught that there's a lack of abundance and there's an overpopulation problem. Actually, there's not a lack of abundance on this world. No. There's more than enough food. I mean, just in the U.S., there's 6 empty homes that were reclaimed by the banks for every homeless person in the country. there is enough food, but the food supply, the water supply, all of this has been hijacked in order to, because we've gotten too big, and there's almost 7 billion of us, and about 350,000 of the sociopathological elite people that believe they're better than us.
Yeah.
And they hoard it from us to create.
Yeah.
I mean, even Pavlov, he had the dogs, right? He took a group of dogs that were allegedly really voracious and vicious.
Mm-hmm.
And what he did is he slowly started adding back all their survival needs. Enough food, enough shelter, enough water, enough mates. And all of a sudden they were like puppy dogs.
Yeah.
And that's what they've done, is they've eradicated our survival needs. I mean, even the average family in the U.S. has to work 2 jobs just to be able to, I mean, on Martha's Vineyard, even if you own your house, the property taxes are so much, it's like having rent. I mean, and it was already paid for.
They just released an article in Australia saying that pensioners are hoarding their money, and they want to close down the $100 note because pensioners are hoarding their money, as opposed to, we call it savings. I don't know about you, but I call it savings. And so they actually want to get rid of the $100 note because they're
just like when they said we couldn't have gold anymore and it had to be kept in the bank, and we couldn't use gold. Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, this is so much more about money, and it's so much more about energy harvesting in general. You know,
I like that word.
You. The funny thing is, if you ask the average person, if money and time weren't an issue, what would you do?
Yeah,
exactly.
And you see a deer in headlights because
a lot of people are.
That notion of, wow, if I didn't actually have to work to make a living, and I didn't have to pay all of these bills, and I didn't have to slave away day in and day out from 9 to 5, sometimes 6, 7 days a week to work toward this illusion of this happiness that comes at retirement, what would people do with their time? Yeah. And the reality is, once you get people into that mindset of creativity, because it takes a paradigm shift in perspective with a lot of people, and you start to realize, like when I started doing this thing with my PayPal account, which we'll talk about later, I started asking myself these questions, and I've done a lot of this introspection over in the past, and I live a very unique lifestyle to many kind of people. Yeah. It led me to doing all this. I realized, other than maybe taking a few vacations and seeing some really amazing spots that I've always wanted to see through my entire life, going to Tibet and doing like island hopping on like massive
and go to the
pirate
pyramids.
Ships. Like check stuff out.
Go like Temple, all the cool stuff.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I might build a nice house, but I'm going to keep doing exactly what I'm doing now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to build the project to make an impact. I want to affect the lives of others. I want to make an impact, a positive impact on other people's lives.
Pass the knowledge on.
I want to shift the consciousness from I to we. I want to unify. I want to find synergy. I want to create win-win relationships, and I want to build the planet back up. You can only spend so much money for so many days before you realize that it's boring just to go out spending money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me just validate what you just said, because you're an exceptional individual, Rainbow Warrior, and that we're all equal, yes, but I work as a healer, and I actually have a lot of clients that have been working with me for a couple of years. They finally retire, and they call me panicking because they're so depressed, and when their whole lives they're in such a habit of getting up, going to work, and not having any time that they just sit there and they don't know what to do. And even if they have money, all they do is sit there and worry if they're going to have enough money.
Yeah.
They don't do anything with it. Yeah. And that's a large part of my clients, for me, trying to inspire them to do their emotional healing, realize that they've given all their life force away, and find out what they want to create with their joint. Yeah. And it's hard. An old dog doesn't learn. Do you know how hard it is to take someone who's worked till they're 65? Yeah. Half of the retirees in the United States go work at Walmart or something just to have something to do because they don't know what to do with their free time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Most people can tell you what they don't want. Yeah, but they can't tell you what they want.
Do want.
And
exactly.
It's that, like, I don't want to do this. But we don't care about that. Tell us what you want to do. Do you want to go on holiday?
I love that quote that says, instead of waiting around and planning your life for your next vacation, why don't you create a life that you don't need to escape from? And for me, like what this signifies is allowing people the opportunity to create a life that they don't need to escape from. Yeah, exactly. And now we've done conversations with people over the course of the last 5 days, asking people what they would do differently. And the funny thing is, even the people that have jobs that aren't necessarily the most paying, but they're fulfilled by them, they'd say they would volunteer and they would still do that job. Yeah. They just wouldn't ask for a paycheck for it.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
And they may be only that.
And that's the same thing for me with this project. Exactly. I wouldn't need an income to be able to survive, but I would still do the exact job that I'm doing here right now because I fucking love it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Stop loving it, man.
So now imagine God,
you're spreading contagious love and joy. That's a weapon of mass creation.
I'm leaving.
Imagine what happens to the world when the tipping point amount of people, whatever that is, call it the 100th monkey, whatever it is, can get into the space of hyper creativity and imaginative spirit. Right? What happens and how quickly can things change? Now, part of the reason why I originally went down this rabbit hole in the beginning was I started studying, I don't know if you're familiar with Greg Braden.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I read Greg Braden's book, and he studied all the ancient philosophy. There's so many.
So many. He's amazing.
He was studying ancient prophecy. And what was super bizarre to me was you had all of these ancient civilizations, and he tracked 20 of them or something like that. But it was like the Hopis, the Egyptians, the Syrians, the Mayans, and all of these others. And he looked at their prophecy that was dated back from 2,000 years ago all the way up to 10,000 or more years ago. And they all, in their native tongue, with no internet, no WeChat and WhatsApp, referred to this time in our human history, and they called it the exact same thing in their native language. And that thing was called the shift of the ages.
Of the ages, and I wrote a poem named
right?
that.
The shift of the ages. And when I looked at that, and I said, it was like all of a sudden, boom, light bulb. We all chose to be here at this time.
Yes, we did.
To be a part of this shift of the ages. It's the time where light trumps dark. Where elites are exposed, where
that's what Armageddon means.
Full
the unveiling
context is brought into the picture, so that people have enough information to make wise decisions and choices for their lives and for the betterment of humanity.
Yes,
and we came here to be a part of that. So, what is this? All this stuff with the trust account, the Federal Reserve Bank. This shit isn't about money. No. It's about the shift in consciousness that we all came here to be a part of. And this is like the ultimate sign, as far as I'm concerned, that the shit is going down right now. And we're right wrapped up in the middle of it.
Heaven, yeah. It's actually, this is what Armageddon is supposed to be. In all the movies they say Armageddon's the end of the world. No, Armageddon's definition is the unveiling of the truth. And this is financial Armageddon.
I like, Anonymous came out, they said the beginning is near. You know?
I love that picture.
So we're still going to run into a lot of people who are on the other side, who are not able to even conceive this idea. What would you suggest we do to help them pull that thing out of their mouth and get the
two things. It's an amazing question. Two things. Let them do their thing, number one, and don't judge them for it. It's actually three things. If they're interested, do the research. And number three is do it for yourself until people see that there's value in it and it's working for you, and they want to know what the fuck your secret is, and then share it with them openly. Like I learned a long time ago during my alternative media radio days that you can't shake people into awakening. We've all gone down this road. Family doesn't want to have it. The harder you shake them, the harder they want to
lock down.
The harder they want to let go of your grasp, right? However, if you plant seeds within people, consciousness is shifting no matter what people are fucking doing. Period. End of story. Did you hear that? Consciousness is shifting no matter what people are doing. People will come when they're ready to come. Some people, it's going to happen quick. Some people, it's going to take a little bit of time. And some people are going to fight until the end because that system gives them the false sense of security and comfort. But there's no way, it doesn't matter how many zeros you have in your bank account that came from the Federal Reserve. They're going to fight it tooth and nail. And they can continue to create and be a part of that reality construct all they want in the Matrix. But when they're ready, we'll be the first one to open our arms to them and let them know it's a lot more fucking fun over here. And
actually, there's a reason why we're not waking up all at once. There's actually an ancient Sufi quote. Those who are asleep will awaken as if to a lullaby. Those who are awake will hear the trumpet sounding. And it's in all the texts. I mean, just the Vedas. We're going out of the Kali Yuga, destruction. She's one of the aspects of Durga. Going into the Satya Yuga. We're going out of a dark age into a golden age. And everyone tried to pinpoint it on, first December 21st, 2012, but even the Mayans, and I studied the Mayan calendar for a long time, it was about a period a window. And if it all happened at once, we already blew up the Earth 4 times. Earth, air, fire, and water. Now we're transforming with ether without destroying it. And we did all choose to be here. And we all have different roles. And a lot of us, this is called the Rainbow Warriors. Do we have anybody in the chat? But Rainbow Warriors is also part of that prophecy. The people that would arise from all colors and creeds all over the world. And they would bring back the old ways and bring in new ones and help heal Mother Earth and all her children and bring her into the divine awakening. We actually have 64 DNA codons in our human blueprint. and only 20 of them activated. This is another Greg Braden stuff. And when all of those are actually activated, one of those genes is an immortality gene. But what turns your genes on and off, thanks to Dr. Bruce Lipton and the father of epigenetics, is not what you were given by your parents, but what you believe. Yeah. And you even read the old books from like Plato. They talk about people 2,000, 10,000 years old. That we can be that again. We're not even meant to die. This is just a spacesuit. Yeah, we are immortal consciousness. Absolutely. And it's about coming back to us being one human race. And please, one beg, and you already said it, don't come from greed here. What we have had is the appropriate lesson in the inappropriate use of power. Don't start acting like the fat cat pigs who are whoring everybody else and going crazy. It's time to find your heart, realize the power that you have, and use it to help each other.
Hallelujah. That couldn't have been better said. And I think that really that's the work right now. Like as this all starts to come online, as we're having this conversation, there's probably now hundreds, if not thousands, of people trying to figure out how to get in and deconstruct and break down this system. Now it's not over yet. That's a really important part. Of course, there's going to be so much resistance by those that are still hanging on to this control and to this power. That's the reality. A lot of the charges that are going through are being reversed. They're being declined. They're going through and then they're coming back. So this is still they're changing the routing numbers for the bank. They're doing all sorts of things to try to retain this control, to try to retain this power. However, there's so much energy. There's so much inertia. There's so much momentum. There's so much destiny.
It's like the dominoes in V for Vendetta.
I love that. It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite fucking movies. Governments shouldn't. People shouldn't fear their governments. Governments should fear their people. And so the work is happening right now. But the best mindset that you could possibly get into. It's so easy to go, oh my God, I got to figure out how to take care of my own end. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to get yourself out of fictitious debt, with wanting to have enough reserves to be able to get out of the state of fear that you're going to have to be able to worry, to be able to pay your rent or your mortgage or put food on the table or so on and so forth. That's cool. But once you get into that mindset where you realize all your needs are covered, let's start getting into the collective mindset of figuring out how best can we utilize this new gift to try to make a difference and make an impact for the betterment of all of us. Unity. When we unify, there's so many incredible people doing such incredible things on the face of the earth right now. But so much is compartmentalized. They got out of radio for that reason. It's like, where are we building the bridges? Where are we connecting with each other? And I feel like this, if all of a sudden resources and the lack of resources were no longer an issue, not what would we do on our own, but what would we do together? Collectively. And that's where we're at.
Create unity consciousness.
So that was actually one of my next questions, was because we're talking about Fed Bank in America, we're talking about American accounts, but there are people out there trying to figure out how to do it for Aussies, for French, for English.
Yeah. So right now, there's people that are in various countries that are looking on the United States with a healthy amount of envy, trying to figure out when is this coming to our country. So in the comments section of this YouTube video, there's a website. A friend of mine, BZ, has been at it since the OPPT days, continue to post stuff called... Yeah.
I know her from Martha's Vineyard. I took her apartment when she left. We founded the Occupy.
She's writing a lot of the stuff up right now.
No way, BZ! Yoo-hoo! Hey, sister!
The website is www.i-uv.com. And in there, it's like a running record of successes and failures, and also the research of trying to figure out there's an equivalent way to access in every country. Yeah. So it's not now that it's like now that this one piece has been unlocked, the rest aren't rocket science. It's just a matter of getting the right minds and exactly in on the cause to help figure out what to do next.
Is there anybody that has that kind of information or skill where we could refer them to help these people doing that?
Well, if there's anybody
not organized yet.
Yeah. Well, the most recent development that came out just this morning was a tool that allows people to put through their experience of basically documenting what happened, when, with what bank, under what scenario, how much was put through, who was the lender, what Federal Reserve Bank, was it charged back, did it go through, what was the experience, what did the operator say. so that way we can start to learn from each
Create
other's successes and
a
failures.
logarithm.
Wonderful.
So I can put that, I can give you that, and we can figure out a creative way to get that out as well.
Okay.
Cool,
Another
cool.
thing, of course, we're going to be doing the show weekly, and we'll be updating as big things come out. If there's anything, we usually do a little news segment before we start the show.
Absolutely.
But we were taken aback, thrown off my way. But it's really important that I think you share the experience of the guy who bought the plane ticket, so that we don't have people get all excited, do what they think they do, and then
And the coach.
Yeah, and the
Yes.
coach.
And the
Absolutely.
coach.
So there's this story is actually unfolding right now. There's a friend of mine who goes all the way back to the OPPT times. His name is Randy Bean. And Randy Bean is like on the front lines of being the maverick that wants to try everything as it comes out first. He's a true patriot in that regard. He's like a no fear, I'm just going to go for it and see what happens kind of guy. And God bless him, but it gets him into trouble sometimes. And so he was one of the first ones to figure out how to link his Federal Reserve Bank to his USAA bank account.
Mm-hmm.
And then what he did was he purchased
his bank account or his
USAA
PayPal?
bank account.
Oh, that was his bank account.
Yeah. So what he did was he purchased $2 million to start, and then he expanded to $20 million worth of CDs that went straight into his account and showed up as available cash. Now the way that a CD works is you got to hold.
Not music CD.
No. CD, like I think
Yeah.
it stands for credit default.
I just wanted
It's
to
like
make,
a bond.
Yeah, no, I knew what a CD is, but I wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Because we said it early in the show. Maybe some kids are like hacker kids at 14. Oh, are you trying to go buy?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's the financial instrument CD.
Yeah.
So once this went through and it showed that he had 2.5 million in available balance as spending power, he went down and he purchased a $500,000 like 50-foot like super coach RV, and the price was $800,000, and he was able to negotiate for $500,000 to pay it in cash. To pay it in cash. So what he did was he worked with Heather and he documented the process and he made sure that it was done super clean. Mm-hmm. So he had all of his paperwork in order. He was able to show that the account was his. He was able to show that the funds went through. He was able to show that he did everything legally and lawfully and by the book. He was able to ensure that the cash actually received at the receiving end, that he had the manufacturer's slip, that he had the pink slip, that all the I's were dotted and all the T's were crossed. So if they tried to come and mess with them, he didn't actually do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And so Heather helped him through this process.
Please tell me he didn't register the vehicle.
No.
Just wanted to make sure.
He didn't shoot himself in the foot with a shotgun. So everything was good, and everything was clean, and everything was cool. This was like he picked this thing up maybe 4 or 5 days ago. And then fast forward to yesterday, and he was getting ready to leave the lot to drive to Texas to meet up with some other people that have been working on this diligently. And unarmed police officers we're not really quite sure who it was. They showed up, and they basically, Randy Bean, we're looking for Randy Bean. They refused to say who they were. There was a couple other people that were there with him. And the short version of the long story is they pulled him out of the RV. They manhandled him. They basically beat him up. They wouldn't say who they were.
Excuse me, American police officer, or not even police. Any.
You
know what happened to him.
It was like the Department of Justice, the FBI, the sheriff,
probably
the
CIA,
local police, maybe the CIA.
Because the CIA is nothing but an army for the banksters.
Yeah, and all the while Heather's on the phone. The attorney that's you can research Heather Ann Tsutsi Giroff, and it's too much. So
she
of a
was
story.
there. Well, this was
no, she was on the phone as his attorney. She was baby
okay.
stepping him through this process
Gotcha.
because. Right now, as we have this conversation, Randy is sitting in jail, and I can't remember what the charges that he's being charged for, but he didn't do anything wrong.
Bank fraud.
Yeah, they don't have anything on him. He didn't do anything wrong, and they broke all sorts of policies, statutes, and codes in this process of detaining him.
Not the U.S. government, Justice Department.
And so. Point being, proceed with caution with some of this stuff. It's brand new. It's off script. They don't know how to deal with it. They don't give a shit what the law says. Yeah, they're willing to break the law if that's what it takes to prove a point, to make a example out of people. And so there is right now at this point in the process, there is a certain amount of risk. Yeah, like there's a lot of people that are paying off credit card bills that are paying off their mortgage payments, that are doing a lot of these things successfully. That is a
Paying for
lot.
their
That's
kids'
a lot.
private tuition.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot lower
Wait,
risk.
yeah.
A lot of these charges they're going through. Some of them are being kicked back, but it's an imperfect system at this point. The more people that get in and make these attempts. I mean, there's already been formal notices from the Federal Reserve Board of Atlanta that came out today that said, watch out for scams of people trying to get into their Federal Reserve, to hack the Federal Reserve with their Social Security number. If you hear about something like this, it's scam, it's fraud, because they want to create this storyline that keeps people calling it a conspiracy theory and so on and so forth.
But if we get enough people just trying, even small things, it would be like crashing a server on the internet. They just won't be able to keep up with it. So if you have enough information and you've done your research and you've been trying to, set your dominion and know your sovereignty and know your standing and step outside the system, because that's really what it is. I kind of stepped outside the system for a long time, as much as possible, and then there's certain ways in order to be able to. I just wanted to get out of the freaking country.
Just quickly on that, because I love how we keep saying step out of the system, but this is actually the system.
As much as you can, but
that's
why I'm going back there.
That's what I mean. But that's what I mean.
This is a way to blow it up itself.
No, this is a construct of people keep thinking that we're actually already out of the system, but the system.
Yes.
We just aren't getting this right set of rules. I learned something many years ago, and it was actually Robert Kiyosaki. Like, everyone's playing with a set of rules which is like baseball, and that's what everyone's playing with. Rich people are playing with basketball, and we're trying to play with baseball, and we're never going to
golf balls.
Yeah, we're never going to fucking win. They've got these
Marbles.
rules, which are the real rules.
Yeah,
we're like over here with these stupid rules that we think are the real rules.
Yeah.
So we need to just go forget these rules. These are the fucking rules. Just use them.
Yes.
That's the system. This is not the fucking system.
But that's what knowing your standing is. I am a living woman standing on the land.
And that's the biggest threat to the system, is people actually knowing who they are. Right? When you know who you are, then you know how much power you have, and you know that no one has any authority over you. And you know that you have the right to live, be, breathe, and do what you want on as long as you do no harm
to another. Exactly.
Then you are out of the system. You don't actually have to go anywhere. It's not it doesn't have walls. The walls are the illusion. Imagine as an analogy, imagine standing in the middle of the circle, and imagine that circle had walls. Well, if you're a lemming, you're just going to keep bouncing up against the walls. And a lot of people, God bless them, that are protesting, that are doing all these things to try to fight paying their taxes, to trying to fight the government, to trying to fight their way out of court.
Absolutely.
I know what's going on. You can't control me. That are trying to fight. They're bouncing up against these walls, going crazy in the process, and burning so much energy.
Yes.
And until you realize that this circle has no walls, and literally all you have to do is put 2 feet out of it, no one's going to resist. No one's going to resist you.
What's that quote out of Lord of the Rings? The blondie chick.
You shall not pass.
No, what do you? He goes. What do you fear? She says, a cage without bars, and I can't remember. I wish I could remember. It's my favorite quote from.
But that's the whole idea.
Yeah,
it's like there's going to be a lot of people that watch this that are like, oh my god, these people are batshit crazy, and there's a lot of people that have already made this transition, and there's going to be a lot of people in between. And really, what this whole thing is about is just for helping people to realize that there's been so much hijacking of what's going on. Awareness can do a whole lot of good, but that there's so many more choices than we're led to believe. We're led to believe it's either left or right, up or down, black or white. There's all these shades of gray of possibility that allow us to become more and more empowered with every choice that we make.
Yep, exactly.
Every moment is like a choice point. Yep. Do I want to take a choice that continues to further empower my enslavement, or would I rather prefer a choice that's going to further empower my highest good and my highest
or that
growth?
shows that I know my power?
Yeah.
Who gives a flying? As long as I don't hurt anyone, I do what I want.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I kind of asked the question as well. What are these people at the top worried about if we all had happiness?
They're afraid we're going to take them and put their heads on sticks.
Well, that's only because they deserve it, right?
But
no, seriously. What are they?
You know what I've learned recently, and I would love to hear your feedback on this, but we've gotten to a point where in our human evolution of consciousness that, first of all, the Illuminati isn't like this massive group of people that have this big, huge plan to keep everybody enslaved. The reality is it's a few small families that don't like each other.
I was going to say they fight amongst themselves. They're like a soap opera.
And not only do they fight each other, within the families they're fighting each other.
Oh, yeah.
And you have people within the families that are young, that are more conscious, that are they understand that there's injustice that's being taking place. Yeah. And then you also have people that just want to, David Rockefellers and, you know, these guys that just want to hold on by tooth and nail, and they will go to the grave without letting go.
That's my mother.
You know, the reality is the majority of these people, they want out. What we're being given from insiders on the other side is there's people that we have in the Department of Justice, in the Secret Service, that are like feeding information into our network, that are like cheering us on. Go. We got you. You got this. Yes, of course there's going to be resistance, but that resistance, there's too much force moving forward, and it's not about resisting the resistance or fighting the resistance.
It's about not resisting.
It's about just continuing to move forward on the most righteous path, and knowing at the other end of that is salvation. If we can just move together and go in this right direction, and that's what accessing these accounts and talking about what's going on will do, raising awareness, because the reality is the more people that find out, the more people that watch all these videos, that start to share it on their own blogs, to do other radio shows, that start to talk about this, it becomes a lot less about accessing the accounts and a lot more about getting people in the mindset that they're already out of the system.
There's no shackles to break off. I just want to validate for the listeners, because Brian's never been a guest on my show, but I've talked about this before. I was involved with a group called the United States Assembly before I left the States that was trying to revert our government to the republic that was actually created in 1776 prior to 1789. And we had the exact same experience. Of course, we had trolls and people trying to stop us because, and it finally, I think they filed it finally at The Hague, but it was being solved. But the whole reason we were doing it was because we did have people. There were people in the Department of Justice, people in the CIA, the FBI, and people in the military that were ready to act if that had actually happened and to end the fraudulent government. So it sounds like it's crazy, stupid story, and I used to be, I hate the CIA, I hate the FBI, but a lot of the people in those systems joined because they thought they'd be helping people. And then they knew what was going, and then that's where a lot of the whistleblowers are coming from. And I'd like to use the analogy of, let's say you hear a terrorist attack alarm go off, and everybody's at a rock concert. You don't want to run for the exit. You want to walk gently. Otherwise, what we're going to do is create chaos and run each other over, and needless people are going to die. So let's not get panicked. I got all excited. I'm like a girl on Christmas morning. I mean, I was, and anyone who knows me, I'm very hyper, but I actually can get very calm as well. But this is like my Christmas day. I'm like, woohoo! I get to peek at what's in the presents my mother had hiding under the bed before they were even wrapped.
Hello, Father Christmas. Kris Kringle.
It's funny, I've always had this sick fascination, like some fantasy story of being Santa Claus, so it works.
Would you like some cookies and milk and carrots for the reindeer? Oh, how about some psilocybin?
Look at them over there, really sitting quietly.
Yeah. They're just observing.
Our animal totems.
They're reindeers.
There we go.
Where do we go from here?
They haven't eaten the magic corn yet.
Absolutely.
Where do we go from here?
I think we go from here to... let me just add this one thing, because this is funny. It brings it full circle, because the very first video I made for myself was right before I went into the court battle to try to present myself to jurors and claim my private standing by going into a public forum. But and it was after a meditation, and it was called A Message to the Powers That Were, but what it was is I called them out for what it is, and you know what? Thank you for the appropriate lesson in the inappropriate use of power. Humanity's got it. We don't need your systems of bullshit anymore. Give us our free energy and give us the abundance of the world back to the people of the world.
Absolutely.
And we're not going to do what you did to us. We're going to forgive you. And we're going to help you heal.
Absolutely.
I think that's the big thing.
They shouldn't fear us, because we're not here to attack, to take back. We're just here to release some energy that's already built up. You know, we know you're scared. We know that you are scared of us. But it's okay. We're not here to take you over. We're just here to be happy.
Yeah, and we're forgiving people. You know, it's like I don't have a pitchchfork in my hand.
No, absolutely not.
The amount of wealth that's been hijacked. Those of us, and there's going to be people that this really triggers, because they perceive these illusionary rulers as these evil people, but they were birthed into this. They took on, if you look at it in such a perspective, what they were birthed into the hardest roles on the planet. These are miserable people, and there's enough wealth to go around for everyone, and we're only going to continue to perpetuate and continue this process of fighting and battle if we want to bring these people out into the streets and lynch them. You know, that's not the best way forward.
No.
And so as we start to transition and we start to kind of move in this direction with this momentum, and they stop resisting, then the energy is behind us in such a way where this is the first step. Right?
Yes.
The next step is all of this technology that they've been holding on to for. Free energy is just one part of it.
Just one time.
And we have more tech, like you said. How many?
Heal the whole freaking earth in like one day.
64 codes in our
64
DNA.
DNA codons.
We have more technology existing within us that's laying dormant than there is to multiples that in regards to this device that's going to sit on a table. We are the most powerful technology.
Well, that's the only
in
reason
the
we're
universe.
even getting the technology externally, because it's just a mirror image of what's already inside us coming out as it evolves. But I do want to add this. Everyone who knows me and who's been a follower of my show or whatever knows I focus because my son is what it cost me. Finding out all this information, my family couldn't handle it, and I was fighting the school not to drug or diagnose my son, et cetera, et cetera. Then Kundalini came along, which is part of that technology that you were talking about with all the cities. And this is an appropriate lesson, because when that happens, we better know what we're doing with it. But it cost me my son. And what's really important here is I got into the whole, one of the aspects of the government is the human trafficking of our children through child services all over. I know that was one of the first cases the ITNJ was going to address in Australia. But it literally is the mining of our children, as I say, for profit. It's the legal yet unlawful mining of our children for profit and pedophiles. And believe me, I talk all about the satanic sociopathological elite, bankster, warmonger, pedophiles of power, who have enslaved humanity through fraudulent governments, fractional reserve banking, fiat money, war, and healthcare, genocide disguised as healthcare. And I've been trying to bring out the issue to save the children, but believe you me, we don't want to take your children and throw them on a freaking altar, murder them, stab them, drink their blood, and pass them around to be raped by whomever. We just want to end that process. We want to stop you. We realize, Jay Parker was one of my friends that I interviewed on my birthday a couple of years ago, actually. He grew up in that system. All the people that are adults, you said this, they didn't choose to be evil. Well, maybe their soul chose to play that role as cowboy or Indian before coming in, whatever good or bad is. But from the time they're very young children, they're thrown into that whole process of the satanic ritual abuse and the black magic, all that, whatever. They didn't have a choice. Yeah. And I'm about...
choice.
I work with a lot of people with post-traumatic stress and sexual abuse as a healer, and I can only imagine what it's like to overcome that. And you are huge souls, and you took some of the hardest roles in the world. So I'm going to speak out about ending it, but it doesn't mean I hate you. Everyone, once you're called out, you have a choice.
Absolutely.
And we do believe in forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of our greatest powers. It comes after creation.
We definitely want to make sure people all understand that we're not here to bring down the system to destroy it. We're actually here to engulf a whole bunch of energy that's going to be released. It's the opposite to what we want.
I got it. We're just pulling the curtain away from the wizard.
Oh!
And we found that picture. It was a Dorothy with all them.
We used to call them the partners in contrast.
Okay.
Because they started as the powers that be.
The powers that were.
Then they went to the powers that were, and then the powers that were went to partners in contrast. And so without these individuals that have created this reality matrix that we're now pulling through, this Kali Yuga.
And duality,
then we wouldn't have known the contrast, and we wouldn't have been given this beautiful opportunity to be able to birth this new world. This is the trauma, this is the struggle, this is the adversity, this is the everything that's grown us into this powerful beings that we are. And we can now use this energy that we've created not as a weapon, but as a tool to be able to spread all of this amazing opportunity across the entire planet.
It's like playing Santa Claus.
Perspective is so important. Yeah, it's playing Santa Claus. Perspective is so important in all of this. So, it's easy to get real caught up in all the information and to get lost in all of it. And I'm gonna go, and that means that. And all I gotta say to that is just slow down.
I gotta go meditate. I was gonna say I gotta go meditate after this.
Slow down. Take a breath, get centered, relax, trust your intuition, know your yeses and your nos, and move forward and bring that peace and that love and that unity that's in your heart, and let's move this shit forward together. And
absolutely.
This is an exciting time to live right now.
I was waiting for this, and I don't know what you know about the astrological stuff that's going on now. And usually we go through what's called the Lion's Gate in early August anyway. But there is we have, I think it's Uranus direct in Aries, which is all about. And I think the last time this happened, it was at the end of, like, you look throughout history, it was like the end of the Roman Empire, the end of all this stuff. That's going on for right now. Uranus in Aries is the one of spectacular miracles, things that haven't moved. Tower of Babel's coming down, this kind of thing. And there's a total eclipse of the sun on July 21st in Leo, like in its chart, and it's like that.
Yeah.
So there's perfect timing for. I was just explaining this to you last night. I'm something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Because you don't know the energy, and I can just tell by the clients I'm working with, because how there's themes as I work with my clients. And people who are normally pretty grounded and just seeking like to go to the next are losing their shit everywhere in the last 2 weeks. Oh no, I'm like exhausted. But now I just got a big dose of energy.
And here we go.
Yeah, all right. Here we go. So Brett, I'd like you to throw in yours. What do you think we go from here?
Well, honestly, I think. Like what I like to teach in my business as well is actually learn the system that's in play. Now, like I teach people how to deal with your debtors and how to make sure that what you believe in is actually real. Like we were talking about it earlier about, people getting stressed, and we were talking about uni students killing themselves because they owe money. Now, even if this system you believe is real, I want you to know there's still a way to learn how to create a better game that you want to play in that same system. And that's what I teach. I teach people that we're not ready. If you're not ready for what we're talking about now, there's still another couple of steps to get there. I can teach you ways to talk to your debtors, how to pay back the money, doing it the way you think you need to do it. Like later on, we can teach you all this kind of stuff. If you have to do it step by step, like that's what I'm here for. That's what I've learned to do, and that's why I've met these people, because I've done the same things. I've gone step by step by step, and now I'm here in Bali learning more and more. Like I'm a newbie to all this stuff, really. I only figured this stuff out maybe a year or two ago. You guys have been doing this for more than that. You guys have been doing it for many. But I knew in my heart, really, that this is real. This is stuff we need to get out, and that's why I'm here today. And the more I learn, I love it. I love this shit.
So if you're not ready to wing jump off the abyss like me and Brian,
I'm ready.
Yeah. Find your wings on the way down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, Brett has a little more, a paraglider maybe.
Yeah. Have a way that we can ease you into this kind of stuff. Yeah. Get in contact. We've all got links below. Definitely, we've been talking now for, an hour and a half now.
Yeah, but I was just going to say, what do you think the next step I was going to have you just toss in? Because we were talking about cryptocurrency before any of this information came out. And you just helped me buy my first Ethereum, although I've had Bitcoin for a while. Another way they might be able to...
Look, I'm a gold and silver guy myself. I love gold and silver. I learned that it's a really nice way to protect yourself financially, and it's a nice way to understand how to, if the Fed have got gold in their bank, well, actually they don't. We know that now. But if Fort Knox has the gold, which is what the standard was, that's what you're kind of wanting to do. You want to build your own Fort Knox so you make yourself safe, and then you can start creating other things. And like I said, that's just the one step towards learning this new system that we've been talking about and releasing here. Because I know this is not going to go well with a lot of people, but we want to make sure that you're helped along the way, as many people that needs to be. So if you're looking for some help, definitely gold, silver, Bitcoin, that kind of stuff. I love, and do your research. You don't want to listen to your financial advisor. Honestly,
your accountant.
They're selling you shit. So you have to learn about everything to make your own decision. And actually, one of the greatest steps I've learned about investing and making money is you actually have to lose money to make it. So don't be afraid to lose it. That's part of it.
Invest.
Yeah. No, but you have to be willing to lose it to then learn about why you're losing it. So that's your step.
Like me last night. I'm like, no, it's going to go down. And he's like, no. And then it went up for but then it finally went down. I said, see? Follow my intuition.
This fear.
Long trades.
Yeah, absolutely. Long trades. That's what gold and silver is. It's a trade that you're going to do forever.
Yeah.
And you've got it there as a security if everything falls apart.
But yeah, like I love this shit. Let's
We'll do that on a whole other thing.
Absolutely.
Did you want to just have a second to explain about what NewEarth's trying to do with the cryptocurrency, or
Oh yeah,
wanna
definitely.
just leave everybody?
Like with the ICO? Let's leave that for another
We'll do that for another time.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
cool.
a whole nother long
Then
conversation.
and actually I was all about like I'm done with 3-hour radio shows, but this one really needed to take the time, and we'll edit it down to what we can. But this is just such a huge. I mean, it's like trying to be put on camera at New Year's Eve after you just drank a bottle of I mean, I feel like I drank half of the Bintang plant. But I'm just so excited. I mean, actually, it's not that. It's the life force. I feel it's like almost like Kundalini, and I can't even talk in clear sentences.
I know.
I'm so excited.
And we've got so many bad technical problems happening.
But don't kill that yet, because
No, it's
there's
already
one
killed.
thing.
It's already dead.
Okay,
okay,
we'll add it from here. One thing I always like to close it with is one thing we're grateful for. I always ask the ghost, and then we. So, Brian, what's one thing you're grateful for today?
I'm grateful for my imagination.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, everything you look at in reality, it all started with the imaginative seed in somebody's mind that they pull from the collective conscious somewhere.
Yep.
And I feel like if there's any word that embodies the possibility of everything moving forward, it's imagination, and how much possibility that exists when we start to put our imagination hats on and start to play with that.
Absolutely.
Lisa?
What am I grateful for? I'm grateful I survived the last 7 years. Especially all of it before that, forget about it.
You've only got 30 seconds.
But I just was going to say, I'm grateful I survived the last 7 years to be able to be here, and especially because that was started. I'm grateful I became Damon's mama. And if it wasn't for that child, I wouldn't have been inspired to still be through all the shit that I've been through in the last 7 years. And I'm also grateful for all the listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, now, while you're saying all that, I'm trying to think about what I'm being grateful for. And I guess what started this for me was a work accident. Like 2-3 years ago, I fell off of about 4 or 5 meters at work as an underground miner. And while I was laying in the mud with a dislocated shoulder, thinking to myself, I think it's fucking time I change. And I just got back from an African holiday, and I literally went, this is another time. So I'm grateful for the accident, actually.
Yeah.
Grateful because
People were walking off the roof last year.
And I had 18 months off work. I was in bed for 3 or 4 months. I literally went, I'm not going to go back to mining. I'm going to go another way, and now I've got time to figure out where I'm going to go. And I moved to Bali for 6 weeks. Yeah. I've been here a year and a half. It's and I'm grateful for you guys, to meet you guys. I'm grateful for
Huggies.
breathing.
Unity Consciousness Huggy. All right. Once again, this is Brian Kelly, director. What's your official title?
I'm a community manager now.
Community manager now for NewEarth Project here in Bali at their NewEarth Haven. All his links and connection are down below, and we're going to add that other link in on the replay. If you're looking for the IUV link that he was speaking about earlier, that'll be on when we edit this out and upload it short, and we're going to please help us viral this video.
Absolutely.
And Brett Slater.
BrettSlater.net. Obviously, YouTube, Facebook, all of that kind of hoo-ha. Lisa Vunk, what have you got up?
My website, Transcendence. Yeah, I can't even.
Transcendence.
Transcendence. The link's at the bottom as
there
well.
There will be links.
And everything's from there. Yeah. We're everywhere. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. You can find us all.
We're in the universe.
You know what you're doing.
So we have been going for about an hour and a half now. Thank you very much for watching. This is our first Conscious Caffeine radio after actually the reborn, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 2.0.
Number 2. Yeah, hashtag 2. I don't know what I was trying to do there.
We're live now.
Trying to be cool, whatever the
But I would always say peace, love, abundance, and joy. But I want to say really now, let's get this party started. Let's get this party started. And that party is heaven on mother frickin' earth.
Thank you.
You're all invited.
Absolutely.
So shine on, peace out.
Thank you.
Namaste. Aho!
Whoop, whoop.
Okay, kill it.
All right.
I'm done talking. Oh my God.
Wow.
I really do. I got to go process this before I can even...